Welcome to Talking with Forest Park on Waycross Community Media. I'm Dana Gagnon, Government Programming Coordinator, and today we have with us in the studio Forest Park City Manager Ray Hodges and Environmental Program Director Wright Gwyn.
Right.
Thanks so much for joining us. Now, one of the reasons we have Wright here is because Forest Park is learning about aggregation right now. So you're going to tell us a little bit about that.
Right. Well, we have a little history with aggregation. This will be our third attempt to pass an initiative by the residents to aggregate our energy resources. We tried to do it in 10 years ago, 12 years ago, right when energy aggregation programs were new. And I think our residents were very confused with it, and it went down very hard. We tried it a second time. We got better with our information, but I think there's still a little confusion about what it is, and it went down. So this time, we're going to develop a really comprehensive informational campaign, make sure that everybody understands how energy aggregation works. And then the voters get to go in November. There will be two initiatives on the ballot. One will be for natural gas and one will be for electricity. And the residents will decide at the polls whether or not they want the city to develop an aggregation program.
Okay. And I know people have a lot of questions about aggregation and what will change and what will not change. And I've had to answer those in the past for other purposes, and I want to make sure that we get a chance to cover some of the main things. People want to know, am I still going to get my bill from Duke, or am I going to get two different bills?
Right.
And all kinds of questions like that. How about that one? They're still going to get...
Right, they'll still get the Duke Energy bill. If you really look at a Duke Energy bill, you'll notice that the bill is divided into two sections. Okay, one section is for the infrastructure. That's for the wires and the poles and the maintenance of the infrastructure. So that's part of the bill. The other part is your supplier, your energy generator. And right now, I would say the vast majority of residents have Duke Energy because we haven't aggregated. So the Duke Energy bill has Duke Energy infrastructure and Duke Energy supplier for energy. Now what aggregation is when you pull all your purchasing power into one unit. Instead of having, 7,000 households and apartment complexes and everyone doing their own thing, we're going to pull, if it goes through and people vote for it in November, we're going to pull all this purchasing power into one group, and then we're going to put it out on the market. And the idea of that is the purchasing power will be greater and we'll get better prices.
And I want to mention something like a huge corporation, Procter & Gamble, can negotiate with energy companies and get whatever rate they want. They have a lot of usage. My one little house, or anybody's little house or apartment in Forest Park, they by themselves, Duke is not going to negotiate with them. So this aggregation is a way for different houses to combine into one big buying power block that can get a better rate that stays there.
Right.
Now, one thing I think that's important, though, is that, and I know this happens sometimes, and one of the things that people get confused about is you get a lot of phone calls from people saying, oh, well, you can change your supplier, you can go with us, or you can go with us, and you get phone calls or people knocking on your door. That's not from the aggregation. The aggregation is through the city, and it's one supplier.
There's a couple things, and it's real confusing. You're exactly right. I get phone calls all the time. I get literature in the mail all the time saying, hey, sign up with us and we will drop your prices by this much, or the contract will be for 2 years. And just all you have to do is sign on the dotted line, and we guarantee at least for the next 6 months your prices will be lower. Now what happens the other 6 months or the other 24 months that you have the contract, unless you really read the fine details of the contract, you could get caught. So yes, you can get all these solicitations from all these other companies, and it is an aggregation type of program. They are trying to bring more people together to get better prices, but a lot of times that's not always the case. What the city's trying to do is bring all the residents together. We will hire an energy broker that will go out and try to research all the possibilities, all the packages that are available. And then he will have about 6, I talked with him today over the phone, he will try to have about 6 programs which the city would review. And the city then would decide which would be the best for the residents. And so you would have several different layers of monitoring and dissecting the contract to make sure that there's no surprises. Whereas if you get this stuff in the mail or you get this stuff over the telephone, you're not really sure what you're getting. So that's the difference. We have quality control in this method, whereas you really don't have any control in the other.
That's a big deal because it's really confusing when you get all of that paperwork.
Now, Wright mentioned that we would hire a broker, and when I, maybe other people hear that, you immediately say, oh, we're going to have another staff member, but that's really not what we were going to do. Why don't you explain this broker and his or her role and how they are ultimately paid?
They're ultimately paid, they receive a certain very small infinitesimal amount of penny in everybody's bill. So if your price is like 3 cents, 3.2223 cents a kilowatt hour, they might have a 0.0001.
But it's basically a consulting fee.
It's a consulting fee, and so they will come in. They're not going to be paid for the awareness campaign program. They only will be working with us if the residents okay the ballot issues. And that's when they start. And that's when they start to work, going over all these energy packages, all the different companies that they might want to approach to see what kind of package that they have. That's when they go into gear to find something for the city.
So it's probably fair to say that we're going to contract with a professional consultant that does this kind of stuff on a regular basis, works for other communities, and they will help us find the best price that we can have for our residents.
And they also, what is also interesting is they will stay with us during the contract, you know, but they will also be looking for better deals. I know I'm from Oxford, and Oxford passed an aggregation program about 4 years ago. And I just read that last year, the energy broker found something that was a little bit better and approached the city manager and say, hey, you might want to take advantage of this. And it helped the residents at that time. So they're always looking through the weeds, trying to find the best deal possible.
I think that's important because a consultant that's not the supplier can look at all different suppliers and see what might be better. And might be, you know, they don't have the same incentive to give you just this one. And I think that's another really important thing for the residents of Forest Park to know, because on our own, we don't have enough power to have that influence with different suppliers, but a broker does. And the fact that this is not someone the city hires, and another important thing, because I know you mentioned this at one of the council meetings, this is not a program that is bringing money into the city. None of this isn't something to fund anything in Forest Park. This is just Forest Park helping people get a better deal on their gas and electricity.
Right, that's exactly the case. And here's the unique situation. And we have had some internal discussion. The city is able to charge a fee for its services. And that's something we'll have to decide whether or not we do or not. Now, I, for one, am saying, well, the city should charge its fee because there is a service associated with it. But whether you charge a fee or you don't charge a fee, the only reason we would get into this is the ability to save residents money from what they're currently receiving. If we can't do that, then we don't want to be in it. But because we believe, yes, we can save a substantial amount of money month after month on your utility bill, that's why we're pursuing it, and that's why we would help oversee it throughout the course of its existence. And I think that's one of the reasons why so many other communities have adopted aggregation programs. Wright's a good example where I think his own personal experience suggests to him that he's glad that he's an aggregation program as opposed to trying to find good prices on his own.
Right. In Oxford, not only do we have a lower price, but we also have a choice of what type of energy we want to use. Whether we want to use more green type energy, the wind and solar type of energy, or more fossil fuels. And that's what kind of the program that we want to kind of put together for Forest Park. This is one of the problems or concerns that residents have is, okay, well now the city's getting into my energy bills, and I'm doing fine. I don't think I need the city in there. Fine. This program is not going to put you into a program that you don't want to be in. Just like I said, if you don't want it, you can vote to get out of it. Okay, if the city does vote for it though, then you can opt out of the program. You don't have to be, you will have 30 days before that program begins. You'll be receiving several different letters saying, if you don't want, call this number. And I wanted to make sure on this front, I talked to the broker and I said, now what if they decide that they don't want to be in it, let's say a year into the program? The 30 days had already passed, they're already enrolled in it. Can they get out of it? Yes. All you have to do is there will be a number on your Duke Energy bill. Call that number, you tell the supplier that you want to go back to Duke, and they'll put you back to Duke. So there is, we're going to try to make sure that everybody has a choice of what they want to do. And that's what the neat thing about this program is. It's a choice program. You can choose to whether or not you want to be in the program, and if the city decides to be in the program and you don't, you can choose to be out. If you choose to stay in it, then you have another choice. Do you want the fossil fuels, or do you want the more green type energies? It's a great concept.
And I think
For
that
all for a
it's
lower
important
price.
Well, and we like spending less money on bills. We definitely like that.
Right.
And I think it's important to note that when it's on the ballot, the idea is just, do we have this option available in our
Exactly.
city? It doesn't mean you personally have to do it.
Right.
Because if the city has the option, then individuals will have the chance to opt out of it if they want to.
Exactly.
And I think that's key, because I think when people go and they vote for it, they think, oh, if I vote for this now, does that mean I'm stuck with it?
Right.
No, this just means we now have that choice. We now
Right.
have that option to see if we can get a much better deal on our gas and electricity as residents in this town,
Right.
which is important.
Right. It's very important, and it's, again, I think one of the reasons why we have to just look and see that there are many other communities that have already adopted this. They have years of experience with this already, and they love it. Their residents love it. They're saving money, and that's what I think we as public officials have a responsibility to do, and that is to at least give our residents the opportunity to save money every month on their utility bill.
And I think you're reading my notes, because that's actually where I wanted to, which you can't possibly because they're illegible. But when 10 years ago, when you talked about initially looking into this, it was a new idea.
Right.
And so people really didn't know what kind of history it would have. It's no longer a new idea. Almost all of the surrounding communities, Springfield Township, Coleraine, and I know
Green
Sharonville's,
Hills.
Green Hills.
Right.
And so there's already a long record. We can run the numbers and look at, okay, in the aggregation in Springfield Township for, out of the last 20 months, 17 of them have been cheaper in the aggregation, so we can see a consistent saving kind
Right.
of thing like that. And I haven't run those specific numbers. That was an example.
Example, sure.
But I actually am on the aggregation in Springfield Township, so I can tell you that I also, like you in Oxford, I do see that saving. So it's not a new feeling anymore. It's not a new experimental thing anymore. So when you say we believe you'll save money, this is based on a lot of data that you have to look at.
Right. And you know, on my part, I have to say I'm a little bit impressed that, and a little jealous that some of my neighbors in other communities are enjoying monthly utility bill savings, and I in Forest Park don't have that opportunity to at least decide whether or not I want to opt in or opt out. So it does make a difference. And there are a lot of communities, their residents are just shocked that Forest Park doesn't have aggregation. So we almost have an obligation to provide our residents an opportunity to have aggregation.
Yeah, and again, this is voting for aggregation doesn't mean you're in it automatically. It just means the town can now go forward with
Right,
that.
they're giving
Yeah.
permission to
Yeah.
the city leaders to develop a program, and then they'll look at the program. If they don't like what the city put together, they can opt out and say, nope, I'm going to stay where I am. And those that like it can ride with it.
And I think there's a lot more understanding about that now. Now that not only you are seeing your neighbors doing this, but some of the Forest Park residents are seeing their neighbors doing that. So hopefully this will be the chance. Now, if people have questions, right, about aggregations, and they might not be something that happened to come up here, where can they go for more information?
They can call me if they want to. I'm in the city building. Just call the environmental department,
Okay.
and I can talk to them. I've got some literature that I'm putting together that I can send to them email it to them if that's the easy way to do it. I'm putting together a PowerPoint presentation that will explain how it works and how many other communities are doing it and why they're doing it. So if they need more information, then we'll do research, because I'm always interested. It was interesting, I got a phone call the other day and somebody says, I heard about y'all's aggregation effort. I'm kind of interested, but my friends tell me that they won't let us use Duke anymore. And I said, no, that's incorrect. You can use anybody you want to. If you want to stay with Duke, you can. So there's a lot of misinformation out there. And so my job, and hopefully anybody else who wants to work with me on that, and I'll be trying to get volunteers throughout the city to help, because I don't want to persuade somebody that this is the way to go, but I want them to know what is available to them and whether or not they would benefit from it. That's my role. And if I can get people to help me put information together and distribute it, that'd be great. If not, I'd love to do it, because I think this is a worthwhile project.
Okay, so I want to just make sure that everybody remembers, because we've just, if someone is new to aggregation, we've just thrown a whole lot of new things at them. Aggregation won't change the fact that you get a Duke bill. It won't change who gets the electricity and the gas to your house, because that will still be Duke. That's the transportation that always comes from Duke.
Right.
All it changes is who the gas and electricity is made by, the supplier. And that gets chosen by a broker based on who can give the best long-term deal that's consistent.
Right.
And people will have the chance to opt out of it. And I want to mention that also anybody who wants to know more about this, make sure they contact you.
Right.
Also, anybody who wants to share more about this, you're looking for volunteers to help get the word out and
Right.
explain it to people.
Right,
Yeah.
and I'm also looking for people who are members of groups who would like to have me come to their group, whether it's a church or a neighborhood group or a nonprofit group, whatever. I would love to come and share the information and answer whatever questions they might have.
Okay, that's important to know too. So they should also contact you at the city and ask for, we want a presentation at our church, we want a presentation at our business.
Right.
Because businesses also benefit by
Right,
this.
right. They will be included in this.
Especially smaller businesses that don't on their own have the buying power.
Right.
And Forest Park has done a lot actively over the years to be a good place for businesses. So this is just one more thing on that list. That's fantastic. Thank you so much for coming in and explaining this. I think we see that word aggregation and we think, what is that? What do we do? Do I need to know about this? And I will say to viewers, if you have questions about aggregation, don't wait until it comes out on the ballot. Take some time, contact Wright, find out ahead of time what the answers to your questions are so you're ready to decide what you want to do on that.
That'd be great. That would be fantastic if they would do that.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Now, is there anything else briefly going on in the environmental department that now I know we don't have a lot of time for that. Do you want to just hit a couple things to make sure we don't miss them?
Okay, it's springtime.
Yes.
So there's a lot of things going on in springtime. We're going to be doing reforesting Forest Park, that we subsidize trees for people. So we have 4 trees that are available. It's all on the website.
Okay.
We're still removing trees. If people have dead or dying trees, we still have money in that fund. So they can call me and we can maybe help remove some of those trees, help with the cost with that. We have a large appliance recycling, the white items in the kitchen, the refrigerators, the freezers, the stoves. If they have any of those, that starts in the end of April. All these start at the end of April, so don't call me now.
Okay.
But the end of April. But they can go to my website.
Okay.
And it's all listed right there, and they can click and get as much information as they want.
That's great. Well, thank you so much. We'll make sure that we post that website, so make sure people can go and keep up to date on those things.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Mhm.